Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Savvy Maverick from the Entitled People subreddit, and it says, my neighbor's daughter just told me I need to park in my driveway again. I either don't encounter many entitled people in my day, or I'm really good at ignoring people, but this one just took the cake, lol. So I, 40 female, just got my driveway replaced 2 days ago. Asphalt, not concrete. The contractor told me I could park my car on it again after 3 days. Google said 7 to 10. As much money as I spent on it, I decided to listen to Google. I live on a two-way, yet one driving lane street. On my side, all of the houses are street level and have driveways, while the houses across the street are on a bit of a hill with steps leading up to them. The only street parking is on my side. Their side has an alleyway / service road behind them where those owners could park. A lot of them chose not to. They'd rather park in front of our houses. Not a big deal, I don't own the street and don't care who parks there as long as they aren't blocking me in. There are 2 spots, sedan size, between every driveway. I've been parking on the street in front of my own house for these 2 days now, and plan to stay there for at least another 5. I did not park in the middle so that no other car can also park because I'm not an arsehole. One of my across the street neighbors has a daughter who is home from college. 19 maybe? I don't know. What I do know is that she drives an SUV that is entirely too big and won't fit in front of my car without partially blocking the driveway of the neighbor next to me. I'm outside this morning watering my flowers, minding my damn business, and this girl comes over unannounced and uninvited. The conversation went like this. Neighbor said, no hello, no pleasantries, just, hey, when are you moving your car? Opie said, excuse me? They said, my truck can't fit with your car there. Opie looked over to the driveway that is clearly still roped off with yellow caution tape and says, I just got my driveway done. The neighbor says, yeah, I see that, but it looks dry to me. My dad said asphalt doesn't take as long as concrete. I smiled and went back to watering. The neighbor said, you can park your car on it now. I took a deep breath, clearly annoyed, and said, drying and curing aren't exactly the same. I won't be parking on it for another few days. She said, no, you need to do it now. There's nowhere else for me to park. What am I supposed to do? This is where my eyes started to twitch because not this little girl telling me what I need to do. I said through clenched teeth, what about your service road? She said, my parents park back there. There's no room. I said, well, I don't know what to tell you. I wish you an ounce of luck. Poor child turns a few shades of red and stomped back across the street. I'm not one of those older millennials who think Gen Z are all entitled babies, but what the hell was that? And in case you're wondering, I work from home. Did all my grocery shopping and errands running a few days ago. I have no plans on leaving the house or my spot again, at least until Wednesday. She'll just have to suffer. Sportscar says, I'd make a point to park on the street for the rest of the summer. John replies saying, and then every time you're asked about it, you gotta tell them it's still warm to the touch. OP replies saying, and it's been raining a lot in PA. It's raining right now. Who's to say all the water isn't actually slowing the curing process down? I think to be safe, I need to park on the street at least until August. Another commenter says, when I moved into my neighborhood, I had 2 entitled neighbors. One came over to tell me I can't cut grass before noon because he likes to sleep in. The other not to walk past their house with my dog because it makes her dog bark. I have several cactus in my yard. I told them I'm very sorry. As an apology, I invite you to fuck my finest cactus. While gesturing to them. They leave me alone at least now. But at some point later, OP does come in with an update and says, wow, okay, so I didn't expect as many comments as I got. I also had no plans on doing any updates because I didn't think there would be one. First, just to address a couple of things that came up constantly in the comments. Why didn't you park blocking your own driveway so she can fit? I considered doing this the day the work was done, but not because of her. She nor a spaceship ever crossed my mind. I was going to do it so that no one could attempt to use my driveway to do a 3-point turn, but I decided not to. Not to be vindictive, I just simply didn't think it was necessary. I genuinely didn't see an issue with me parking on the street. Also, despite the arguing in the comments, in PA, blocking a driveway, even your own, is illegal. I live in a suburb where the PD has nothing better to do than to just drive around. I didn't actually believe they would enforce it or ticket me for it though, unless they were truly bored. However, after that exchange, I wasn't going to do a single damn thing to accommodate her. If that makes me the entitled one, then I'll be that. Taking up one space in front of my own house seems, I don't know, perfectly reasonable. Someone saying, you can park on it now. Google is being over the top. Opie says, I actually agree. 7 to 10 days is a little outlandish. However, my concern is my car sitting there for prolonged periods. If I were leaving every day for 8+ hours, I would be more inclined to start parking on it now. However, I really don't leave often for more than maybe 2 hours at a time, a couple of days a week. My car is a 2018 and only has 24k miles on it. I'm a homebody for real. Also, my driveway previously was crumbling, but also sinking in exactly where my tires lined up. Coincidence? I think not. Someone said to Opie, I hope you have cameras, she's gonna vandalize your car. Opie says, I do have cameras, in plain view. I also have a motion detection dash cam, but I'm not too concerned about that. Like I said, it's a 7-year-old car that's been paid off for 2 years. If she's dumb enough to have to buy me a new one, that's on her. Also, her father is pretty high on our district school board. I didn't go looking for that information. He told me that years ago. I don't think he would take too kindly to his daughter tanking his reputation over something so trivial. Lastly, thank you to everyone for all the petty suggestions. I got a laugh out of those. I won't be buying a clunker to sit in front of my house until the dawn of time, but I appreciate the dedication. I hope that context helped because the update is not juicy at all. Earlier today, Sunday, I was outside on a video call with another contractor showing them my fence that needs replaced. My neighbor, the father, was also outside doing yard work. He waved and I gave him a polite smile and continued with my conversation. When he saw that I'd hung up, he waved again to get my attention and came across the street. He started by asking me my version of events yesterday and I told him. He kind of looked mortified and just shook his head and mumbled, "That's her mother." He then proceeded to tell me how his daughter got all of his good traits and all of his wife's bad ones. I don't know what that meant and didn't really care. I will say that I've owned my house for 9 years and have never once had a single interaction with the wife, only with him. She's never acknowledged me and I'm okay with that. He also cleared a few things up. 1, she's 21, not 19. Not that it matters, I just got that wrong. 2, the Suburban she's driving isn't hers. If you live anywhere in PA, you know we've had some pretty destructive storms over the last couple of months. Well, one of them claimed the daughter's normal size Hyundai by dropping a tree on it. She's renting the Suburban because she's going on a 6-week road trip with friends to CA. Not the most fuel efficient choice, but okay. The important part is, she leaves next Saturday. 3, he never sent her over here to say anything to me and didn't tell her about the asphalt drying time with the intentions of her bringing it up to me. Apparently he was just making small talk about the work that was done because he was home that day and she wasn't. She brought up that I wasn't in my driveway and he told her why. He apologized and said he would have her do the same. I told him that wasn't necessary. I really don't want to interact with her again for any reason. He's now parking in front of my house so that she has room for a school bus behind their house. That's it. She's leaving on Saturday and while I'm not leaving my car on the street until Christmas, I'm still leaving it there until Wednesday. Be kind. The dad seems alright in this situation and, I don't know how asphalt works, but I would be being cautious with it as well, especially if you're spending, I imagine it's quite a chunk of change. I've always wanted to say that, chunk of change. And I would generally be taking the precautions to make sure it's fully cured. People probably say it doesn't take that long, but I would always be on the safe side with that kind of thing because, what's the point? What's the point in fucking up? Now, our next story also comes from the Entitled People subreddit from Red Dazzler, who says neighborhood bully is getting close to being served a cease and desist. There is a neighbor who thinks it's okay to tell everyone what to do with their own property. Every time she decides to talk to anyone, she stands in the street or their yard shouting for them like she's calling a dog. She talks at people instead of to them and is the rudest person in the entire neighborhood. Yesterday, she was in the street yelling. She didn't say anything that indicated to me that she was trying to get my attention. I've lived in places where yelling in the streets means that the person is on drugs or hug me coke crazy, so I was just attending to my pets and not paying attention to her. My name is not Missy, Misty, or Hey You. I don't answer to random crap like that. She finally got my attention and I told her that she can't just yell at me like I'm a dog. She claimed that she didn't, but other neighbors agree that she did. She started saying that we have to cut vines and stuff out of the fence between the 2 yards and said that she was going to call code enforcement if we didn't. My cousin went out as soon as he got home. He lives here too and cut the vines and plants even though the roots of everything that she was talking about are from her side of the fence. This morning she called code enforcement anyway because she didn't like being told that she can't talk to us like we're dogs and needs to keep herself off of our property. We have a barrel that we have some usable metal in and is not for trash. She had put trash in it and claimed that we've been using it for trash and rainwater. Even the jerk from code enforcement was baffled by that. Part of what bothers me is that she has multiple code violations on her property, but tries to tell everyone else what she wants them to do with theirs. While we were outside working on getting things situated the way the code enforcement officer told us to, she drove past slowly, mean mugging us. My husband yelled, "What do you want?" She then drove down the street, passing her property instead of just going home. This bitch is stupid if she thinks we're going to keep up with putting up with her shenanigans. If she continues to do this stuff, I will serve her with a cease and desist. The last neighbor to receive one from me got a crash course in legality of such notices and almost caught charges from the police as well as the civil case we're about to file if pushed. Tough ad, says the OP, so she trespassed onto your property and put garbage in your barrel. Get her on camera to admit she did it and call the police on that batshit crazy lady. Red replies saying, "We're waiting for a little more from her." The neighbor that is directly across the street from her is already compiling footage from his cameras, which show everything we need. Dazed and Confused says, "If she's coming onto your property, turn the garden hose on her. Clearly she wants a shower, so you should oblige her." And then there was lots of comments about the bucket woman saga after that. Apparently there's been more updates, we'll cover that soon. It always tickles me with Reddit and the hose though. It's like whenever there's a neighbor drama going on, douse someone with a hose. I'm trying to think of a situation when I was younger. If you was to hose someone down, you'd probably get your ass kicked, but I do like the thought of it. Another commenter says, "First, get her trespassed from your property. Have the police explain that every time she goes on your property, you can call the cops. Eventually, there will be jail time or community service. Also, put up cameras so it won't be a case of he said, she said. Document, document, document everything. Hopefully, she will eventually understand she needs to leave you alone. Also, if she keeps calling code enforcement when there is no problem, she can be cited for false reports or abusing the system. My brother is a judge, and this was the advice he gave me when I had problems with my neighbor." Consistent says, "I have a similar problematic neighbor. I've not put up with her shit for a single instant. Never yelled, never got mad, never raised my voice, never even acknowledged her unless otherwise forced to. Just spoke in unambiguous, declarative sentences. I won't be doing that. I'm not interested in your opinion on this or any other topic. You may call whomever you like." She gave up after about 6 months because I gave her nothing. She glares at me every so often, but she doesn't speak to or approach me anymore. OP replies saying, "She has been acting sideways with my family for the entire 17 years that she's been in the house. I didn't live here myself until almost a year and a half ago. She doesn't know who she's messing with. I'm not scared to take legal action. I'm not scared of her. I served a different neighbor with a cease and desist last year, so that neighbor ended up with a crash course in the legality of such documents and almost caught charges from the police department." The OP did update the post and says, "After talking to the neighbor who messed with us last year to the point of being served with a cease and desist, the neighborhood bully got curious and asked to see the document. The neighbor showed the bully the document, which includes my full signature, includes the indication of the degree that I have. The bully googled the abbreviation and realized why the neighbor backed off so abruptly last year. We haven't heard anything aside from their lawnmower since. I'm glad she didn't decide to play a round of fuck around and find out. Lol. It's more peaceful around here, especially since the bully backed off of everyone. Multiple neighbors think it's funny that I didn't tolerate the stuff the way she's used to people doing." Too true. Absolutely. Neighbors like that need to be called out pretty quickly before they get their feet under the table and get comfortable with their entitlement, because they will continue to pressure you. They will continue to make things awkward and just try and rule the area. You know, if you've heard my stories in the past, there's always one family that I always talk about who thinks they own the neighborhood. And I mean, they were much more aggressive than the neighbor that you see here. And I'm talking violence as well. But they were just peak entitlement. I got many stories about them, and I'll certainly tell another one in the near future as well if you want to hear it. But in the meantime, let's have another story. The next one comes from My Username Goes Here. Again, another entitled people story. And it says, male neighbor in apartments letting off fireworks less than 3 feet from apartment building after quiet hours. Tried to fight me. This happened last night and is basically what it says. I, 34 female, live in an apartment building where we're not allowed to have anything flammable, including grills, fireworks, bonfires, fire pits, etc. For the last couple of weeks, I've been having issues with my neighbors being loud after quiet hours and waking up my 6-year-old. I've asked them to stop multiple times and explained that my daughter is asleep by 9 or 9:30, even in the summer, and they keep waking her up. After I complained the first couple of times last week, they set up a TV directly outside of my apartment and had all the kids except mine invited out there to watch it at 10 p.m, meaning they were running around and screaming directly outside my daughter's window, after excluding only her. I went out pretty hot that night and let them know that I was done with their shit, and if they didn't stop, I'd inform the manager and the police. Police are valid because of quiet hours, and it's what the manager says to do, even though I normally wouldn't call them unless it was an actual emergency. But they ended up being quiet the rest of the night. It didn't last though, and I was not the only person to complain. They kept going for the last week and a half, but it would be random and sporadic, so I couldn't get them on camera. I invested in an actual security camera today. So, to last night. Fireworks are going off directly over the apartment buildings, and I do mean directly over, to the point where it could have easily caught the building on fire. We also haven't had rain in a couple of weeks and everything is very dry and just waiting for a spark. And that also setting them off less than 3 feet away from the edge of their porch. All of this is on camera because I ran upstairs and got them from my upstairs window. I came out and yelled across the lot. I've asked you all to stop. You're still going. I've got you on camera. I'm giving it to the landlord. You might want to look for somewhere else to live. Well, this old drunk of a man in his 50s. I call him Bobby because that's his name, who was also out there letting off fireworks, and also put himself in the middle of everything in the complex since I moved in 6 years ago, came over and started getting in my face. He pulled back his fist and went to punch me, but my great uncle was a semi-pro boxing coach, so I knew how to fight and I immediately dropped into a stance, which is the only reason he missed my face as he swung at me and scraped down my body, pushing me backwards. At this point, my other neighbor, a little old lady who you'd think didn't have a mean bone in her body, came rushing out of her apartment and started defending me, along with a few other neighbors. Cops were called. I was told I could press charges if I wanted, but it would be a misdemeanor. But if I waited and he kept bothering me, they could push it up to something higher. So I decided to wait for that, and because I didn't feel right sending him to jail for trying to hit me, and I knew it would just cause more drama. During this whole thing, Bobby kept screaming at me that I would be out of here in a month, and I have no right to tell others to be quiet, and I'm just a ruiner of fun. And the last part could be true, but my landlord called me this morning and has already confirmed that I'm not the one getting kicked out for this situation. I just don't get it. We all live here. We all have the same rules to follow. I'm neurodivergent, so rule following is a big thing for me. But I still try not to say anything to other people until they're being safe or they're affecting me and my family. I just don't understand how people can be so entitled to think that they don't have to follow the rules that allow people to live together in peace, or why they think it's okay to risk people's literal lives with fire during a no burning time, while they're too drunk to do anything if something were to go wrong. So yeah, that's my story. The Candyman says the cops telling you to wait because it could build into more charges is a flat out lie. If they broke the law, hold them accountable, but the prosecutor isn't going to say, oh, you waited so we're going to increase the charges. Opie says, I don't think they meant it as we're increase the charges, just as we have more on him. Candy replies that saying, what this sounds like is, let it escalate to him hitting you, then file charges. Press the misdemeanor charges, and then if it escalates, he has a history and record, not hearsay. Opie says my landlord also told me I should go ahead and press charges, so I think I'm going to, just to keep myself from getting in any trouble with the apartment building for a disturbance or whatever. Yeah, that comment had me absolutely like, what the fuck? Just let it escalate. I mean, how much more do you want it to escalate that he takes a swing at someone? Oh, let's just see what else he does. Fuck that shit. Another commenter says, should have pressed charges. That would make it easier to evict and easier for any future misdeeds to be punished. Also call the fire department directly about the fireworks. If he's available, their marshal will come out and drop the hammer on him, especially for the fire hazard. Opie says the ones who've been causing issues have been gathering on their side of the complex and looking over our way a lot today. And a couple of us think they're probably planning to do it again tonight. There's a precedent for these thoughts. So I was absolutely prepared to call 911 again if I need to, but I never thought about the fire marshal. Thank you. I know this is going to be like a really wild thought that just popped into my head, and there's nothing like this story whatsoever, so you have to forgive me here. But all I pictured when, there's two sides here, like there's this side that keeps staring across to their side, and there's some neighbors that's protecting OP, etc. The film Gangs of New York popped into my mind, Leonardo DiCaprio, where they all meet in the middle to have a big scrap. In the comments, Opie said, so far nothing has happened tonight. They've all been gathered on that side of the complex, and it smells like they're grilling. But as long as they don't keep my daughter awake or come at me again, I'll just wait and let the landlord handle it. And at some point later, Opie came in with a very small update and said, my landlord called. He's getting a termination notice today for trying to hit me. I kind of feel bad, but he's been causing issues for a while, so the majority of us around here are happy about it. Absolutely don't feel bad for someone like that. This is consequences of their own actions. The point that they came over to try to hit you while causing all this shit at the same time. They could have come to you, they could have discussed the situation, working out something that works for all your neighbors and you. But they decided not to. They decided to escalate to the point where he's coming at you swinging. Fuck that guy. Whew. Got a little bit sassy there, but what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Maybe you've dealt with your own little nightmare neighbor at some point in the past. Let us know your full story over on r/Mark Narrations. I like a little bit of neighbor drama. Just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. Always means the absolute world to me, so thank you so much for being involved, truly. And hopefully, I'll see you in the next one. Take care. And much love.